So bow hold basics. One of the things that I find in a lot of players is that their bow hold is not quite comfortable, it's not quite malleable, and there's a bit of rigidity in it, and that does affect the entire experience of playing. And it also does affect the performance as well. So if the bow hold is not absolutely comfortable, then the arm doesn't feel comfortable. So if you're kind of stiff over here, then the arm has to kind of compensate for it, and so then you'll see a little bit of awkward or tension in the bow arm. And then of course that affects other things as well, like the larger muscle groups, and also it greatly affects sound. So I find that getting a good bow hold is super important, but at the same time I do strongly encourage individuality in the bow hold. So my bow hold may not exactly be the same as others' bow holds, but it works very, very well for them, and my bow hold works well for me. So the main place I guess would be to start with just the general goal for each finger and the thumb, and then from there we find something that works for us, as long as the bow hold is very firm but very flexible. It's able to do this. You're able to do many different motions, be able to do all of the bow technique like collé and ricochet and jeté and saltier, spiccato. If you're able to do all of these things without any tension and any limitation, even up bow staccato, down bow staccato, all of these advanced skills, if you're able to do that with a good amount of control and flexibility, then I think the bow hold you have works for you. So what I start my beginners out with is just basically looking at the shape and of every finger and thumb, and which part of the finger and thumb is touching the bow, and which part of the bow is being touched. So for example, I always tell them the thumb is the leader. If the thumb misbehaves, then it kind of causes everybody else to misbehave. So the thumb has to be bent to some degree, some more than others. So just a little bit of bend here is fine, or a lot of bend, but I wouldn't recommend a lot of bend all the time, because you can see how it's kind of tightening up my hand here. So a little bit of bend, definitely not what I call banana thumb. It looks like hitchhiker's thumb or banana thumb. I see a lot of kids who haven't had individual instruction have this problem. So we definitely want it to be on the bent side of straight. If it's a little bit straight, it's fine, but a little bit on the bent side. So mine usually fluctuates anywhere from straight to very, very curved or very bent. Okay, so we want that really, really flexible but strong. Also, the thumb is going to be sitting right here on top of the U, is what I say. It's still touching the stick. A lot of kids, they end up putting their thumb in there, and a lot of teachers teach that. I really don't understand why, but you're not supposed to put your thumb inside the U. It always goes on the stick. So there's a little bump right here where the frog ends. This is the black area, is the frog, this whole entire piece. So you want to put your thumb right there near the stick. If it bothers you, then you can put your thumb on the grip. There's a little bit more cushion, but I like mine inside this little crevice right there. Okay, so I put my thumb there on its tip. Do you see how it's not coming out the other side? So it's on the tip and it's in a bent shape. And then the next thing I look at is these middle fingers. I call them hugging fingers because they do have the most amount of contact with the bow, and they're kind of really coming around. Sometimes these guys make a mistake and they start sitting on top. Instead, think of this as like a pier and or a dock, and then they're kind of sitting with their legs over and maybe kind of dangling into the water. So make sure these guys are kind of coming over and hugging more, wrapping around. The pinky is the second most important. So we have the thumb, that's absolutely the leader. He's the only guy who's supporting the bow hold from underneath. So it's working against our natural gravity. And then the pinky is the second most important. And the pinky needs to be sitting on its tip in kind of a rainbow shape back here. We don't want it to be straight and locked, and I see this in a lot of players, even professionals sometimes. My pinky finger does straighten out a bit if I'm really pronating a lot. And you see how my pinky even comes off a little bit if I'm really leaning in with a lot of power. But usually you're not going to see me with this kind of like parking brake on with the tip really pressed in with the straight pinky. You're not going to see me doing that. If it looks a little bit on the straight side, it's because I'm just relaxed and I'm really leaning forward. But if I'm pulling a down bow and I'm about to pick up my bow from off the string like that, then you can see that the pinky is in control of the tip. So you definitely need to have your pinky super strong and supporting all that weight that's way out over here. And so we do need our pinky at work. But then when I'm playing on the string and it's sitting down on the string, then you might see this action. Okay, so that's kind of the explanation why sometimes the pinky might look straight or might come off, but I definitely don't sit there when I need the pinky and I'm having my pinky like floating up in the air. This is not good. It should always be ready to go. So you see, when I let go of my left hand, my pinky had to support the bow. Okay, and then finally the index finger, I say, you know, he's kind of laying down by himself. He's a little bit of a loner, so if he's over here touching the rest of these guys, then do you see how I'm kind of losing leverage here? Everything's so close together. So here's the thumb underneath. So these fingers, if the pinky and the index are a bit more spread out, you can see where my thumb is down here, and then now I have a bit more leverage over here, like a seesaw and a fulcrum. Okay, so definitely want to be able to push up against the pinky. See how this went up, and then I can relax the pinky. Or when my bow is on the string, my first finger here, my index finger, can really lean in and press. And so my thumb is pushing up very strongly and my index is pressing in. So it's like this. It's kind of like I'm turning a doorknob this way. This is pronation. So this bone in my forearm was over here, and now it's coming over and crossing over this bone on the underside. Okay, so this is the pronation. Okay, so basically that's what we want to look for. The index finger usually touches between this joint and this joint. So see how right here is my dent because I just pressed against the bow there. Sometimes it goes over more onto this, and many teachers teach that it should be actually in this joint. But I find that especially with beginners, then it starts to kind of snowball. And see how they go like that, and then now look at my bow hold. It's really favoring this side, and then now this side became straight. So if I reverse this guy, I'm going to back him up, reverse, reverse, reverse. Do you see how now this is more curvy? And so now I'm back to over here where it's a little more close to my first joint that's touching. Or you can just put it right in the center between these two joints. Okay, but I think it's a little safer to have it more in the center or towards the first joint, and then I don't really feel like it's slipping that way. So I'll give you a view. The other thing I say, like, this is kind of like a sock puppet. You can put eyes here and say hello, right? So you want the mouth of the sock puppet to be open, and I usually joke with my beginners, like the young ones, and I say he loves to eat ice cream. And we decide what his favorite ice cream flavor is. And so we want to always keep that open. In the beginning, it's tough, so they end up kind of pinching right here. So that's why I make a big event out of this, and I make a big event out of the thumb. I call him Mr. Bent Thumb. And then I say, we need to feed him ice cream. Can you feed him ice cream? And then if they pinched it, then they actually can open it up so that the ice cream can go in. So it's a good reminder right there. So from this angle, it looks like that. From this angle, it looks like this. From the back angle, it looks like this. So see how nice and hollow that looks. There's a lot of strength here. There's always more strength in an arch shape that's, architecturally true. So we want to make sure this is a nice arch, and that way I can push. See how I have this flexibility. And yeah, I think that basically covers that. So hopefully that's a helpful reminder of what we need to be looking for in every single finger and the thumb of the bow hold.